I'm Lisa Freeman. I'm the executive administrator for the Stanford Medicine Center for Improvement, and really appreciate the presenters today and everybody who's able to join us. And we are recording this presentation, and we'll post it on the SMCI website. So just want to give folks a heads up. Our newsletter, we're having some issues getting it distributed, but you ought to be able to find it on the website later this afternoon if you want to see all the information there with the live links. And a couple things I want to let you know that are going on. The call for abstracts for the Lean Healthcare Academic Conference, September 10th to 11th at Stanford, is still open. It's been extended to this Friday. We got pretty robust submissions now, about 70 in progress and about 30 already submitted. Wow. And also registration is open, and early bird registration costs are available now. So that's up. And then also for those of you who intersect with the Stanford Medicine Children's Health and access to maternal and child care, the Lilly and Donnelly seed grants, this is going to be our third cycle. So we have a second gift, and that announcement is also up on the website as we speak. And they're accepting through the mid-July, I think it's July 18th, accepting letters of interest. And then those letters of interest that are accepted will be asked to submit full applications. So if you're interested in those seed grants, please be on the lookout for that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Joe.
Thank you, Lisa. And good afternoon, everyone. Happy Thursday. On behalf of the Stanford Medicine Center for Improvement, we'd like to welcome you all to this month's Teamwork for Transformational Care Affinity Group presentation. I have the privilege of introducing Keith Fisher, Manager of Rehab Operations, and Marina Miceli, Assistant Clinic Operations Manager from Stanford Medicine Children's Health. They have done a project on enhancing efficiency and availability in the rehab department. We are all being faced with increasing volumes, limited time and resources. So Keith and Marina have agreed to present their project with some of the objectives of streamlining workflow, optimizing scheduling, improving patient satisfaction, and enhancing staff morale, all things that are part of improving teamwork and transformational care. And they come from the perspective of the rehab program, but I'm sure this will provide some foundational ideas for improvement in all areas. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to turn this over to Keith and Marina.
Thank you, Joe, for that very warm welcome. It's much appreciated. We're humbled that we were asked to participate and show some of the work that we've done in the rehab department. Like Joe said, my name is Keith Fisher. I'm the manager of operations in the rehab department. I'm presenting today with my assistant manager, Marina Miceli. Before I go into our presentation, giving a plug for the Lean Conference, I have to admit, and I wish I remember the gentleman's name, one of the presenters was the inspiration for this work. When I heard his presentation about how Australia went from a work queue of 10,000, which was significantly higher than mine, but they dropped it in half in a very short amount of time. So I made sure to corner him and ask him questions about how they went about it. And it was so helpful in the vision I have for our department to try to work on our availability. So that's it. Today, Marina and I are thrilled to share a quick overview of our initiatives to enhance efficiency and availability for physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech language pathology services at Stanford Medicine Children's Health. Take it away, Marina.
I'm sorry, I just realized that I'm not sharing my screen, so bear with me. Alrighty. Can everyone see my screen now? Perfect. So as Keith mentioned, my name is Marina Miceli. I am the Assistant Clinic Operations Manager for the Rehab Department. And to give everyone some background, we were experiencing an access issue in the Rehab Department since 2020. We were experiencing some notable strain on our capacity, making it challenging to provide access and availability to our patients. At one point, our work queue was over, I would say, 3,000 referrals. And this graph just shows basically by the quarter. And you can see at one point, we were over 8,000 referrals in a quarter. And that did not include our unauthorized work queue. So these were just referrals that were ready to schedule, had already received off, and we unfortunately just had an extremely large backlog that we weren't able to clear. And despite our ongoing efforts of trying to clear out this backlog, we realized that we needed to implement some strategies to ensure that we were meeting some timely patient care. Our referrals, we realized that there were some main causes that were that we needed to address. First, we had some clinical and admin staffing decrease that were just really impacting our patient census. This led to long wait times, delays in service, and again, that backlog of referrals. We had also looked at our template release timeframe. We went from putting out our templates to 4 months out to then 2 months out, hoping that our no-show rate and our completion rates would increase. But then that also impacted our wait times. We were also really hit during COVID-19. We had to limit our services that we were providing on site. And then also the schools in our area were also had impacted services, whether that was on site or they were no longer providing services. So then our referral count then was increased. And then also we had to implement telehealth literally overnight. During the peak, we, like we said, had to decrease our services. We had to look at telehealth services, which we had never done before. And we had to find a way to integrate telehealth into our current services, which again, there was quite a big impact in that. But I do have to say a big shout out to our team on that regard. We did receive the Dahlia Award for innovation for getting telehealth services pushed out to our staff in such a quickly time frame. And it was actually a pretty good success, to say the least, during those pandemic shelter-in-place mandate time frame. And unfortunately, the rehab department also faced several barriers. We had some capacity and staffing limitations, insufficient capacity to accommodate the number of referrals that were coming in. And then also we had some space constraints. Despite having 5 locations, the number of referrals, we weren't able to have the available space, and then it impacted our ability to then meet that demand. We also had an increase in wait time, which again is not a patient satisfier, to say the least. The access to the rehab services as a whole, and again, this is to include occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech and language pathology. were impacted. The biggest impact was for our speech department, and they were experiencing waits up to 12 months. And then we also had some barriers in regards to school availability because of school services being impacted. A lot of families were looking for after school availability, and unfortunately, only having 1 or 2 after school timeframes per therapist, it really impacted the likelihood of getting those patients in that time frame without increasing that wait time. And then this also really impacted our staff. Increased workload and that pressure to manage the scheduling complexity really impacted our staff and the morale of our staff. Because of that, it was basically time to hit the drawing board. We expanded our A3 thinking beyond our management team by enrolling several of our staff members into PQMS training courses on A3 thinking. This strategic training investment really helped our team learn those essential lean tools and definitions of what Keith and I were trying to put into place. And really changed our team's mindset, right, on how to identify and resolve those problems. We launched an A3 project to really look at our process flow for scheduling and getting patients in through the door. We quickly realized that our existing process that we unfortunately couldn't revamp our process from start to finish. It was just so complex that we realized that we needed to streamline what we currently had first. As you can see in this slide, there are 3 different process flows showing. Those are 3 pages out of the 14 pages of workflow that we mapped out. The process was extremely long, and because we had 3 different service lines, each service line did something a little bit different. As much as we tried to stick to standard work, unfortunately, with 3 different service lines, each one does a little bit something different, which then again really impacted the route that we had to go in looking at our A3 thinking. So we decided to focus on 3 main factors for this project: streamlining processes, optimizing our resource utilization, and enhancing our service availability. So our first step was about streamlining our processes. We implemented a twice-a-week huddle for all 3 of our specialty services individually. This included our admin staff and our clinical managers. We felt like it was really important to have our clinical managers in these huddles to really look at, from a clinical perspective, how we can move forward more efficiently. These huddles included a metric reflection of the previous day. We look at best practices, prioritization of what we want our staff to do in that specific day. The metrics of the previous day really gave our staff insight into not only staffing productivity, but gives us an opportunity to reevaluate in real time. So this means, like, for example, we may realize that there's a specific therapist that has availability within the next couple of weeks, that we needed to ensure that we had admin staff members that are available to assist and making sure that we could get that efficiently completed before moving on to our next task. So really looking at those insights on a biweekly time frame. This, like I said, allows us to give us data-driven changes in real time. We utilize both our capacity improvement part as well as our utilization improvement reports to give us those insights. This really helps staff identify opportunities and prioritize specific openings. As you can see in the utilization improvement, one of the therapists had, a 70% utilization. So we had admin staff work specifically on making sure that those clinicians were being utilized to the max. The other thing is we realized that we were burning a lot of slots within that week, and we really wanted to focus on the prioritization in the next 7 days. So this utilization report really helped us pinpoint exactly what we were looking for and being able to pivot quite quickly on those openings. We also implemented a 5-day out rule, is what we called it. If therapists had availability within 5 days, we were able to use those slots to put in new patients. A lot of the slots, like I said, were going unused if patients were canceling within 24 hours or, a lot of our patients do have multiple therapy sessions. So we were really looking at utilizing those openings in a different way. And this new role also incentivized our clinical staff to keep a robust wait list to ensure that their patients were being looked at first before new patients were then being added to their wait list or to their schedule. And speaking of robust wait list, that leads me into the streamlining of our wait list management. We restructured our wait list in 2 key ways. The first one is just like any standard wait list, really looking at putting all patients that needed services on the wait list. So that way, once those openings do arise, then we had patients to pull from. And then just making sure that everything was documented on there. The clinical staff's recommendations, whether it be 2 times a month, just making sure that we had them on there so that way we could reach out to them when we had those openings. And the second part really came in key during our COVID days when we were utilizing telehealth. Our clinical staff realized that they needed a way to electronically let our admin staff know that they had patients that needed to be scheduled. And we were using just a paper scheduling slip that our clinicians were handing to our patients, and then they would walk up to the front desk and schedule. But because of the telehealth appointments, we realized that we needed an electronic scheduling slip. So we started utilizing our wait list as that electronic scheduling slip. And then just notating if it was a scheduling entry versus a wait list entry. And then this allowed our admin staff to then manage our wait list to give those families a call to schedule additional appointments. The rehab department is a little bit different than just a standard doctor's appointment, just because we schedule so many patients within a certain time frame. So, for example, one patient may have 1 appointment each week for 4 months. And so just ensuring that we were meeting those recommendations from the providers, it's in its entirety. We wanted to make sure that we were meeting those recommendations. And I am actually going to hand it off to Keith to discuss the next part.
Okay, thank you, Marina, for sharing that. One of our biggest wins was our identification of capacity at Stanford Medicine Health Tri-Valley for all 3 specialties. It really paid to know Joe Carlucci. Just him and I in a casual conversation, we're talking about our concerns, and this came up. And we met, Patrick Aguiar, Carrie, Moniz, and Joe and I, and hammered it out. IT was very helpful with the CERN process. And I got to tell you, as you can see in the graph here, we transferred over 649 patients to Tri-Valley. And the win in this was we had patients who were seen sooner, closer to home, and since Tri-Valley is part of the Stanford family, the revenue stayed in-house. So much better than sending patients off to our community partners that aren't affiliated with Stanford. This way, we generated revenue that stayed in-house and still under the Stanford banner. We also implemented the automated monitoring of appointment availability and rescheduling through Epic FastPass. With this system, earlier slots are automatically offered to our patients, reducing wait times and improving patient satisfaction, not to mention lowering the number of calls we have to make out chasing after patients. This decreases the manual monitoring of these open slots for patients that already have appointments scheduled. This system is improving the average wait times by 50 days or more. Next slide, please. Okay. After determining the no-show rate was not affected by limited template availability, we were thinking if they had a shorter appointment span in which we gave them an appointment, that they wouldn't no-show, but nothing like data to prove what may be a perception wrong, that it made no difference. So we went back to opening up our templates to actually 6 months. And so we saw an increase in patient satisfaction because they had an appointment. They weren't just waiting on a work queue, waiting for us to contact them. We changed our cadence of sending out our communication letter to families to notify them of the current wait times and what our constraints were. This also proved to be a great patient satisfier because they knew what the wait times would be. It managed their expectations. We provided the timely information about delays, which helped reduce family frustration. They weren't calling just to say, when are you going to call me? Just tying up another resource, phone answering. And the anxiety of families awaiting services, making them feel valued and considered even when immediate care was not available. Alongside the wait time information, again, the community resource letter about offering alternative resources for families was very helpful. They could explore these options while they're waiting for us to call or actually moving over to that community resource. That support helped mitigate the impact of delays, providing families with other avenues to access care and services, thereby enhancing their overall experience. Another initiative that made a huge impact, and I got to admit, I was totally against it at first, but we converted a manager's office into treatment space at Los Gatos. Given the office size, it was, perfect for a mini gym. And when the attention was brought to me, I kept thinking, so where am I supposed to sit? What do you guys want me to do? But again, as a very data-driven person, once they showed me the data, there's no way in the world I could be the one person not wanting to go along with it. So through this collaborative effort, we actually doubled the physical therapy capacity, averaging an additional 100 visits per month. Significant. Here was a prime example of using what we had to expand capacity. In February, we further enhanced our workflow by integrating Intrado. This automated system sends text messages or phone calls to patient families, notifying them that we are ready to schedule their appointment. This optimizes resource allocation by allowing families to speak with a scheduling representative directly or inform us if the referral is no longer needed or if they're receiving care elsewhere, thereby streamlining our scheduling process and improving our communication. As you can see here, we developed an action plan to track our countermeasures using Plan, Do, Check, Act, which so many of you I'm sure are familiar with, the PDCA cycle. And well, I'll talk about that later in the presentation. I don't want to get ahead of myself. This systematic approach helps us reflect and learn from each step, ensuring careful monitoring, and evaluations throughout the process. We've gone up a little bit, but when we first put the presentation together, we had successfully cleared our backlog and returned to pre-pandemic numbers. This transformation took a substantial time, but was well worth the effort. And as Marina, well, let me point out from the next slide, you saw this surge almost up to 8,000 patients before we took this initiative on. Let's talk about key takeaways. First, again, I want to say thank you to our Tri-Valley collaboration, which had truly opened the door for a partnership. This collaboration is helping patients receive the care closer to home and strengthening our regional healthcare network. Next, by redefining scheduling huddles, another collaborative effort, making sure we didn't do harm downstream with all the parties involved. We enable same-day priority adjustments and quick workflow changes. This flexibility ensured we can respond effectively to real-time needs and obviously set the priority for our staff on what's important and what should be worked on first. The manual monitoring is another vital step we've taken. By using Epic open slots, we were able to manually track appointment availability and ensure no slots go unused. Waitlist management has been crucial as well. By keeping a waitlist, we're ready to quickly match patients with any open slots, minimizing downtime and improving access. Obviously, when families know how long it takes to get in, when we're able to offer them an earlier slot, most of them will jump at it. And having a system of a wait list, knowing who those families are who said they would be open to this, was just really helpful. The automated monitoring through FastPass, another point I want to bring out, a takeaway. It has really revolutionized our approach. This tool, it automates our open slot checks and accelerates patient rescheduling, and the Intrado system notifies families that we're ready to schedule, allowing admin staff to focus on managing the impacted work queue. One more thing, repurposing the resources of the Los Gatos mini gym conversion, again, taking the space that we had and optimizing it. It enhanced our access to physical therapy services, utilizing our square footage in the best way possible. Implementing weight communication letters, we not only maintain a high level of service transparency, but also actively support and manage the needs of our patients and their families during challenging times. And finally, the rehabilitation template opening strategy to better align with patient preferences, scheduling appointments further out into the future instead of keeping them waiting on a work queue. Each of these initiatives showcases our commitment to improving patient care and operational efficiency. A great thanks to our staff for their dedication and patience and hard work in making these improvements possible, as well as our clinical manager colleagues. Thank you to all of you for listening. Are there any questions that we could take?
Thank you, Keith and Marina. That was firstly, thank you for the kind words. And I think that speaks to the SMCI community. Keith and I first met at a SMCI webinar and continued to become good friends as well as collaborators. So spread the word and have your colleagues join in. You never know when it will help solve an issue. And that was amazing to get back down to the pre-pandemic numbers. Actually look like it might even been lower. So great work. Congratulations to you both. I would like to start with the first question, if I may, the moderator's prerogative. As I look through the list of participants, there's a lot of different departments and disciplines that are on this call. And so how, either Keith, Marina, or both, what would you recommend to the other disciplines, maybe a higher level overview of what learnings they can take from this. What would you recommend, more on a macro level for other departments looking to get more efficient?
Marina, why don't you go first?
Of course. I think my biggest takeaway from this whole project is that you have to look at both things that we can optimize, whether it's through Epic, as well as things that you can optimize through your team, right? Automated systems like FastPass really helped us. We can only do so much with the time that we have in, our day-to-day work. And sometimes automated systems, can keep you guys on track. So really looking into those automated systems to kind of help push you guys through to the next step. We did I would say, a lot of manual work, but having those automated systems, I think, are a big impact.
If I could add, I think what we did early on, as we decided we wanted to take this work on, is just making sure everyone spoke the same language. The one slide that Marina spoke to, where we had team members go to PQMS, we even had team members, we invested the time for them to go to the Lean conference. I think I've gone to each one since I've been here. Marina has drank the Kool-Aid, so she comes along. Where she met Joe and Suki. There at the Lean conference. We're big believers in that conference. And what we found that helped so much, again, they understood the language. They knew what we were trying to go after and why we were going about it the systematic way we chose to, rather than have them come in, oh, I know what the answer is, and we don't even know what the problem is yet. So I would highly encourage making sure everyone who's involved in the A3 process to have some familiarity with Lean, whether through PQMS or Lean conference.
Thank you. I do have a couple others, but I want to open up to the group if anyone wants to unmute and ask Keith or Marina a question.
Yes, this is Dr. Kim Williams here. I am the director
Good
of
afternoon.
nursing. Good afternoon. I'm the director of nursing operations for the Bass Center. So, as I have a complicated service line, I'm telling you, I'm over here about to jump out of my chair. Bells are going off everywhere. First of all, kudos to Keith and Marina, Joe, for this extraordinary work. I know as we look at kind of the face of healthcare and what we're all faced with this transformational work, this is exactly what we need. So kudos to you. This is also another extraordinary example of why we need to tap into this wonderful gym we have here at Stanford called the Lean Conference. Like, we need to encourage our folks to go and learn and bring back some of those practices so that we can optimize all that we're doing. I also wanted to commend you for, I heard you say this a couple of times, patient experience. I just am elated that you all put that at the forefront. Yes, we needed to do some optimization. We needed to be more lean and all of that, but you didn't lose sight of the patient experience. And that is so, so important as you're doing projects like this. Keith, I'm going to have to say thank you to you for demonstrating your humility, because I think if somebody comes to this door and tries to make my office into something else, I don't know. So thank you for your humility. That was just a wonderful, wonderful demonstration of you being committed to clinical excellence in what we do here. And just two more things. Publish, 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 publish. Like, this needs to go beyond the walls of here. And so I can't say that enough. This is something to be really, really proud of, and I hope that you all will do that. My question is, as we do things like this, especially with different departments, even different locations, how did you get buy-in from the team? And what multidisciplinary teams were involved in like the decision-making process and such? So how did you bring folks to the table and then get them excited about the journey that they were going to embark on?
Yeah, Marina, why don't you go first, because you'll be more diplomatic than I will be.
I was going to say it was not easy. Believe me, Keith and I had to do a lot of encouraging our staff. Really, and like Keith said, you know, I drink the lean Kool-Aid. I really enjoy looking at these process improvement initiatives. But I needed my team to also buy in, right? And then we also needed our clinical managers to buy in. Mm-hmm. That was, I think, the biggest part for us is that, you know, we could only do so much with our team, but this is a department initiative. And so getting everyone on the same page was really the first part of it. And then just making sure that, you know, we kept up the huddles and making sure that everyone was attending, that, you know, if you were a stakeholder, you needed to attend that huddle, because we wanted to make sure that everyone was on the same page and that we can move forward. I think Keith and I had a really good vision of how this would impact our team. And so just, again, trying to express to everyone what that vision was in hopes of, you know, better outcomes for our patients. And I think, you know, telling everyone the why are we doing this? Why are we looking into these process flows? I think is key also. Once everyone's on the same page and everyone's kind of heard that why, then they can take it back and, you know, say, okay, you know, this is impacting my patients. We can see it in our press gang scores as things start moving up. We see it, you know, in the way that our patients present at their appointments. So I think, you know, just getting that buy-in initially is key. Keith, if there's anything you wanted to add.
Yeah, I'll add something quickly because I know we're getting close to time. But I'm a big believer in the Cotter 8-step approach to transformation. I incorporate that with my lean principles. We got our buy-in from our boss. So obviously that trickles down when everybody knows the boss is on board. You have your de facto leaders who aren't necessarily supervisors, but, you know, they're leaders amongst their teammates. And when you get their buy-in, they are influential. And then, as Marina said, you know, we made it very open and transparent. It's hard to fight against results that are positive. So it was easy for them to want to kick it to the curb when, you know, we had to reevaluate things. But what keeps the process on track is when you have those wins, you celebrate them with the team and show them that you have to have some type of board that's showing it where they can see it incrementally getting better. And those are the things that will help win over the naysayers.
Any other questions for Keith and Marina? You want to unmute? Or I will ask one more, if not, and people who know me would be shocked. I'm asking a technology question because it's not my comfort zone. But Keith and Marina, I heard a lot of technology components to this improvement. Can you talk briefly about how you engaged or who you engaged to help you get this done?
Once again, I defer to Marina because she pulled in all of her folks at PI.
Yeah, we definitely had quite a few chats with our PI team. You know, we also got IS on board for our reports. Who else did we? Chris Morris with FastPass. To be honest, it was we were reaching out to anyone and everyone that was willing to take our emails in this regard. But I think just we knew there were things out there that were available to us. But unfortunately, it's, Keith and I come from an admin perspective of things, and high tech AI things in that regard, are above my scope of things. So I definitely tried to reach out to as many people that would take my email to see kind of what was available to us, whether that be talking to our Epic team to look at, those Epic features that automate things, or just new reporting to kind of give us better data on exactly what was happening, and giving us then better targets and expectations for our team.
And if I could add real quickly, yes, Marina and I both are Stanford Medicine Center of Improvement fellows. We went through the process of becoming affiliates first, and now we're fellows, because again, we want to continue to practice performance improvement first and foremost. I don't want to forget about Angad I may have spelled his name wrong as I put in the chat, but he made the CERN process so easy for us to refer patients over to Tri-Valley and electronically, where we didn't have to send over a fax or something clunky like that. It was all within Epic, and kept the patient confidentiality and HIPAA compliance going well. So he was very key. So we had a lot of collaboration, or we definitely spearheaded it, but we had a lot of help, or we never could have had this type of success.
So,
and Kim, it is documented. Rick Mason got a copy of it. He asked for a copy of this presentation, so we did document it.
Thank you. So I want to take this moment to thank again Keith and Marina for their time and their expertise, and congratulations on an amazing achievement. Keep up the great work. For everyone who attended today, we are grateful for you coming and sharing your time and your questions, and hopefully in the future, your expertise or your questions. Reminder that the Teamwork for Transformational Care Affinity Group rotates throughout the entire Stanford enterprise. Stanford Children's, Stanford Tri-Valley, Stanford Medicine, and Stanford Medical Partners. Watch for an invite. Our next presentation will be by Stanford Medical Partners in July, and we look forward to seeing you all there. Have a great rest of your day.
Publish, publish, publish.
Bye, everyone.